Hello and many thanks for joining us on this edition of the program People, Politics and Power. I am Imoni Amarere. Sokoto State in northwest Nigeria is historically revered as a center of Islamic scholarship and intellectual heritage in northern Nigeria. But today, it faces daunting challenges in its contemporary education sector. While the state government, development partners, and civil society organizations have made commendable efforts to expand access to both formal and non-formal learning, experts say deep-seated structural and socio-economic barriers continue to undermine progress. Low school enrollment and high dropout rates, particularly among girls, persist due to poverty, early marriages, cultural norms, and insecurity in some rural communities. The quality of education is further weakened by inherited poor infrastructure, inadequate teaching facilities, and an acute shortage of trained, motivated teachers, especially in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics subjects. The system also struggles with poor learning outcomes, as national assessment reports repeatedly show that learning outcomes lag far behind national standards, as many students leave primary school without foundational literacy and numeracy skills. Weak policy implementation, limited budgetary allocation, and governance gaps in education by previous administrations compound these problems. The result is a widening gap between Sokoto's educational potentials and the skills needed for social transformation, economic growth, and active citizenship in modern Nigeria. Now, addressing these challenges requires a coordinated, multi-sectoral approach that bridges traditional values with contemporary educational needs, ensuring that Sokoto's legacy as a seat of learning is not merely historical, but a living reality for future generations. Today, we ask, what will it take to turn the tide, bridge the gaps, and restore Sokoto's place as a true seat of learning? This is a conversation that matters, and this is a conversation we are going into. I'm joined in the studio by Professor Ahmed Ladan Allah. He is the Commissioner for Basic and Secondary Education in Sokoto State. Thank you so much, Prof.
Thank you very much
for joining us. Also joining us is Mr. Louis Archie. Mr. Archie is a former associate editor of This Day newspaper. Thank you so much, Mr. Archie, for joining us.
Thank you.
Right. So we'll go on a very short break, and when we return, we'll be delving straight into our discussion. Stay with us.
The Nigeria of our dream, the Nigeria we need, is the united, indissoluble, and cohesive Nigeria, which guarantees equity, fairness, justice, and prosperity for its citizens. That is our focus on people, politics, and power. It is fresh, insightful, impactful. It's a must-watch. People, politics, and power on AIT.
Thank you so much for staying with us. Professor, let's begin this way. Tell us, what exactly is the state of education, particularly basic education in Sokoto State today?
Thank you very much, and good evening to everyone. I think I'd like to start by saying that as far as education is concerned in Sokoto State, right steps, are being taken to ensure that the lost glory of education in Sokoto State is regained. Since the coming of this administration, a number of factors, a number of activities a number of initiatives, have been put in place. When Governor Ahmed Ali came into power, let's start with teachers. Like you said, in the background, basically as far as education is concerned, there are 3 or 4 components that will make education to be successful. One, you need to have the teachers. You need to have well-trained teachers and well-motivated. You also need to have the students, the pupils who are going to be taught. Then you have the learning environment. You have to, make sure that you provide a very good learning environment in terms of classroom, in terms of tables and sitting materials, in terms of laboratories, in terms of ICT. And then the next thing is the community, which you have mentioned. You need to collaborate with the community, with the traditional rulers. And that's why you have what we call the PTA, and today we have the SBMC, which is the School-Based Management Committees. Now, when Governor Aliyu came in, it will surprise you to know that a teacher, for example, in the primary school, some teachers were receiving 18,000, some 16,000, some 20,000, some 25,000, and there was no promotion for the last 10 years, But today, I'm happy to inform you that there is no teacher, both in the primary and secondary school, who is receiving less than 70,000 naira and above. Some primary school teachers are receiving 100,000, from 20 or 25,000 now to 70, 80, 90,000. So they are well motivated. And, a number of training programs, because when you have a teacher, you really need to train that teacher. You need to come up with right pedagogies, right methodologies, right approaches, so that these teachers will be well-trained, well-motivated, and then they will have the capacity and capability to impart knowledge. Now, another thing is the issue of learning environment. When he came in, for example, under my ministry alone, he selected about 11 schools in the state. And in fact, the renovation has almost reached 80 to 90%. Some of them have been completed. He also selected under Agile 240 schools that are under renovation. Not only that, because we realize that girl child education, is dwindling, the enrollment is dwindling. And then under Agile project, Adolescent Girls Initiative Learning and Empowerment Program, 42,000, girl child, have been selected. Those, that we feel their parents, do not have the economic power to send their children to school. Most parents, particularly women, you find that because of the so-called poverty today, they like to, to keep their children at home. I'm talking about the girl child, to send them to some miniature, works to go and sell nuts, bread, and, so on and so forth. But when he realized that, look, you really need to come to the rescue of these parents, 42,000 of, girl child have been selected across the state. And very soon, they are going to be getting some transfer of cash, conditional transfer of cash. Now, just I'm talking to you, next week, he has approved a training of teachers. We're going to train all our teachers, in batches, and the principals. Principals in particular, to train them on the techniques, of how to manage a school. Not just being a principal, but you need to understand what are your basic responsibilities. Not just to go and sit down and not caring, are the teachers going to the class? If they go to class, are they really teaching based on the syllabus? Is the curriculum really followed? Are they using their lesson notes and lesson plans to teach, or do they just go off-head and teach? Now, are you also mobilizing your your communities to bring their children to school? So we're all trying to teach them all these, approaches, so that they will know, look, because you are made a principal does not mean that that is the end of it. When we came, this is exactly what was happening. You find principals staying in the office. They don't even sign the attendance register. Only the teachers do. So we are now enforcing that. They don't come to school, at the right time. Some of them come to school 10, 9, 10. They don't conduct morning assemblies, which is very important. But now, today, when you go to Sokoto State, for example, many teachers, because when it is 7 o'clock, I don't stay. The moment I say my prayers, 6:30, I start moving to schools. 7, I told every principal, every teacher, 7 o'clock you must be in the school. Go around to make sure that students sweep their classes, their environment. By 7:30, 7:25, students should start marching to the assembly ground. Immediately after conducting assembly, within 15 minutes, go to the class. Every form master should go to his class, call the register, make sure that the students are there, those who are sick. We take note of all that. Then by 8, teachers will start teaching.
What would you say, Prof? Was responsible for that level of decay before you brought this to bear on the system?
Yeah, a number of things. Like you rightly said, the issue of, welfare, the issue of salary is very important. You can't imagine a teacher teaching in the secondary school, receiving, or in the primary, for example, receiving just 18,000, 25,000. What will 25,000 do to a teacher? I mean, and maybe you are posted to a village, which is about 20, 40, 30 kilometers. On transport alone, that money will not be enough for you. Then another thing is that, because of the decay, the parents also found that, look, our children, when they go to school, they don't learn anything. When you ask them simple things, they can't write, they can't read. So, many people thought, why should I be sending my children to school when they don't learn anything? And coupled with the fact that, there is a high level of unemployment within the economy. So some will say, after all, so person has graduated and there is no job, why should I even send my child? When he goes, he comes back, you ask him to read, a simple letter, he cannot. So a number of things. Teachers become demoralized, they come completely, no longer interested. Teaching is seen just as a second job, as a stepping stone. If you are, employed as a teacher, nobody will even like to tell you that he is a primary school teacher. Because, like they said, when you go to look for a wife and they tell you, no, it's a primary school teacher, nobody will give his out at you because thinking that you can't manage her very well. So, and then there is no sensitization. You need to be sensitized in the society. You need to go and see the transitional rulers. You need to bring the stakeholders together so that everybody will know that, look, you have a responsibility to do. If you're a local government chairman, people elected you there. You should know it's your responsibility to make sure that, parents send their children to school. If you are a chairman of a party, if you are, a chairman of PTA or SBMC, you should know that, look, you need to send their children. You need to mobilize them. They need to come. And you also need to come and make sure that teachers are teaching because they are paid salaries. So when you don't bring all the traditional rulers also, they need to be involved. So that there is a committee set up by the local government to be checking what the teachers are doing in the schools, to show interest, to make sure that, yes, the teacher really deliver good lessons. But other things were missing. But today, with the support of the governor, repairing schools, paying salaries at the right time. Like I said, no teacher is paid, less than 21st, 22nd, as from 19th. And I told all the teachers, like, if any teacher misses his salary, let him report to me, and I will go to the accountant general immediately to make sure that his salary is paid.
So all of that is being put in place now to improve. Mr. Achi, what would you say would be the ideal conditions for education to thrive in any environment, including, of course, Sokoto State that we're focusing on?
Thank you. Well, it's no secret that in human progress, there's a linkage to education. Where you don't have education, it reflects in regression. So In any environment, you need education to improve, to progress, to compete. And we are in the age of knowledge now. No society can afford to be slack when it comes to education. And I think in Sokoto State, Governor Ahmad Aliyu, I think is starting to change the story of the decay in education in Sokoto State. And at the foundational level, the basic and secondary, that's a foundational level before you talk of the higher ones. You need to get it right. You need to get it right in human resources, infrastructure, equipment, incentives, motivation. And I think the governor is working on that seriously. And by even putting a prof of the status of Professor Ladan, that sends a powerful message. So I think in Sokoto State, like most northern states, education is key to liberate them, to make them progress. The age we are now, you can't afford to be going back. A lot of things are happening on this planet. So education is key to unlock even genuine freedom, unlock progress. And I think from the vision, one of the key agendas in the 9-point SMART agenda is education. One, if you look at the data and the facts, priority in budgetary priority, education enjoys that in Sokoto State, from my checks. I think they are allocating 25%. That's above the UNESCO threshold, and that is commendable. The North is a conservative environment. So when you see a progressive step up, increase the tempo, take the bulls by the horn, I think it's something commendable. And I think the story just started.
Prof, in spite of all the several intervention programs that you have enumerated, Sokoto State still records one of the lowest school enrollment rates in northern Nigeria today. So what do you think is responsible for that? Why has it stagnated at this level, even with all the efforts that are being made by the current administration and with all the interventions that have been made?
Yeah, like they said, the path that leads people to the top is always full of thorns and potholes, and you cannot build. This is said New York, is it, or France? Is not built overnight. When he came, he is just 2 years old in the system, and you are talking about human beings. A human being is the most complicated biological engineer on earth. When you are dealing with people, you want to change attitude because you are trying to change the attitude of people towards something. Already, they have formed a very negative attitude about teaching. Like I said, the teachers there, they were not paid, so they no longer feel, it's a job. In fact, they don't go. Now, it takes time for you to change all the things. You need to put a lot of incentives. Like he said, it will surprise you to know that because the governor is really, worried and seriously, interested in making sure that education, improves, within the shortest possible time. Every principal in the state, both junior and secondary school, is receiving 200,000 as CA every month. But then, since you are trying to change something, you have, when you are talking about 2 million people and you want to change their attitude, you start from the teachers. You are paying them salaries. They are still thinking, no, they don't see teaching as anything. But now, we are putting a lot of measures. We are making supervision, monitoring and evaluation to be key, to changing the situation. And I thank God today, teachers that are not coming, teachers are coming to school. Enrollment is beginning to increase. We are coming up with various assessments, of teachers, of schools' performance based on certain key performance indicators. Already we had done one, the first and second term. Now we are coming up with another one. We want to find out every school, the enrollment there, the students that come, those who are absent, teachers that are using their lesson notes and lesson plan. So now we are grading them. And very soon, those teachers that we feel, are not really competent, because like I said, teaching is not taken really very seriously, and that's why people don't go into it. People that are good, people that are intelligent, they don't take teaching. But now with these salaries and with this motivation, and when we are going to take teachers now, we really have to conduct a test. We have to make sure that anybody who is coming there to teach, is someone who has the mastery and knowledge of the subject matter, because you can only teach what you know. And many of the teachers that were recruited before, they were just recruited, on the fact that maybe they know someone or some political alliance, or maybe this is the father of that, the child of that, and when they go, they don't teach. And many of them don't know anything. But today, we are putting in place, a very rigorous mechanism of recruiting teachers and continuous training. Like I told you, we are now going to have a second, phase of training. And we believe that with time, when we continue to do this, we continue to monitor these teachers, and we also find out those who are really not competent, we really have to eliminate them and bring in fresh people. And we'll also make sure that those who have a good degree, like 2-1, at least 2-2, these are, teachers that will recruit. Because when you don't recruit the right people, then forget about it. When a teacher doesn't know what he's doing, he can't even make a good sentence. And they are the teachers teaching. But it's not something that you can just come overnight and say, okay, you are going to remove everybody. If you do that, no. First, we are now training them. Those we feel are trainable, then we continue with them.
And those who cannot...
And those who cannot cope, then definitely...
Then be shown the door.
Yeah, we have to show them, of course.
But let's look at the attitude of parents as far as this enrollment is concerned.
Yeah.
Particularly the enrollment of the female child.
Yeah.
What has been the trend in the last 2 years? Have parents begun to change their attitude, the cultural and religious beliefs and systems that probably held them back previously? What is the situation at the moment?
Yeah, it will interest you to know that, in fact, just before I came, because we are working with a number of partners, who we have invited. I was in Lagos and we met with some of them, and they came, we went around. In fact, when you see, if I show you some video pictures here, if you see the number of female students, in some places, the female students are even more in terms of number. Because you find the boys go to the farm and, they go to their farms and work. So that attitude, why you find parents being skeptical to send their children is because they feel that their children, will undergo some moral corruption. But today, many of the schools, you find that in a class, even if it is mixed, the girls are separate, they're on the other side, while the boys are, the other side. Now, because, like you said, the issue of culture is very important. And there are some schools that we're trying to see the possibility of, having separate male schools and separate female schools, so that we encourage people, because of the religious and traditional beliefs that, look, still this is Western education. When you send your daughter to school, she is mingling with boys, something bad can happen. Now, we continue to preach to them, to tell them, look, it is not so. What is really important, you need to inculcate good moral values. Once you inculcate good moral values to your daughters, wherever they go, those values will be there in them, and they will not change. So honestly, the enrollment of girls, is really coming up. And I want to tell you this. Like when you take, the primary school, we have about 592 females in the primary school. In the secondary school is 532,000, but in the in the case of males, it's 655,000. It's less than 100. The difference. So everybody is beginning to understand the value of education now. because they know that without education, I mean, you may not be able to be a productive member of the society. Moreover, what we are even trying to do, we are introducing some vocational and technical trainings, some craft work. You know, apart from the normal classroom, we are now trying to introduce a situation whereby a girl can go and learn how to knit, how to make pomade, how to make air freshener, you know, how to, process, certain food items, so that by the time she leaves, secondary school, even if she is not able to go further, she will be, gainfully employed through those handcraft work. And
skills acquisition.
Exactly. That's what we are trying to do today, just to encourage them. Because, in our environment, people like to marry their daughters early because of fear of, having unwanted pregnancy. Or you find some, the girl becoming very stubborn, not listening to the parents, not listening to anybody. Like I said, even in our own case, even when you have a highly intelligent girl, even in the university, or a girl, a woman who is highly educated, mostly you find that if the husband is not well-to-do or is not well-educated, he may not be able to control her. And our society, everywhere in the world, you need to have certain control over your family because there must be leadership. So we are trying to make sure that, we introduce all these skill acquisition centers within the school so that this girl will go and learn when you finish, we also give you some starter packs that you can use, to do some business. In case you get married, when you go home, that conflict between a husband and wife, because of demand, that, okay, I need money to do this, I am going for a wedding ceremony, my sister is that, now she has her own, means of livelihood that she can sustain herself, she can solve her problem. So believe me, when you go to some of our schools and you see the way girls are coming out, I will show you the video. You will be surprised. I am telling you this.
That's yes. Good to note.
Yeah,
Mr. Achi, beyond the remuneration for teachers, for educators, their take home, like Prof has just talked about, what do you think can be done to attract and retain good educators in our educational sector generally?
Okay, the thing is, change is not easy. Any change, progress comes with challenges. In the age we are now, looking at the Sokoto education sector, you need to understand the current governor came into an existing situation, which, from his assessment, was not okay, which is trying to change the narrative. Now, when you recruit teachers, the commonest, this is, as I said, is how do you retain them? The condition of service is one. Imagine you have a primary school, a secondary school, and you have accommodation for teachers. That's a powerful incentive. So you don't have to travel far distances, you have accommodation. It solves a basic problem. Something as simple as accommodation. A person knows, I have an accommodation here. It commits him more to that basic responsibility of teaching. That's one. The remuneration, like he said, they have stepped up the remuneration, but you still relate it to the forces. How do you purchase food, feed your family? The value of the naira and all that. It has to be realistically related, so that if you say you're paying somebody 50,000 a month, you need to establish what can that do. Is it a bachelor? Is it married? If you improve those conditions, you're helping his commitment and his focus on that basic responsibility of teaching. So to recruit and retain staff, that's the human resource, which will enable you push education forward. You need to remunerate well. You need to provide some other supporting infrastructure. Those are incentives, and there should be other incentives. Human beings respond to incentives. Immediately you provide it, they respond. And there has to also be a way of tracking, feedback mechanisms that informs you of how well you're progressing. So if you want to tweak, make changes, you are taking data from the field. So in Sokoto State, just like the North, basic challenge, education, you're even talking of enrollment, you're talking of out-of-school children. When you put those structures in place, recruit, retain, you can be drawing, incentivized. You can be bringing in more people. And then attitudes change. The people are watching your body language, they're watching the governor's body language, they're watching the commissioner's body language. If your body language is what it should be, it has an effect. So these are key areas you can help to recruit and retain teachers.
Nigeria, of course, has a very large population of out-of-school children.
Yes.
And a very huge percentage of that is in northern Nigeria. And Sokoto State is part of that.
It's part of that.
That population that we're talking about. As much as the current administration is trying to incentivize the system to bring in more people, I think that there are still many or out-of-school children out there in Sokoto. What can the government do in the next 2 years, for instance, to reduce that population of out-of-school children and get them into the educational system?
One, there are causes. The economy can be a cause. Culture can be a cause. So whatever changes you want to make, you need to start from the roots. Why will a child be out of school? Is it the parents cannot afford to put him in school? Or is it a culture that encourages a laissez-faire kind of approach to educating children? Those things have to be dealt with. When the economy is bad, when a parent can't afford to put his child in school, there's nothing you can do about it. So a policy, at the policy level, the state government, let me leave out the federal government, we're talking about the subnationals, at that level, policies can empower, can create changes that is positive, so that the number of out-of-school children, they are actually considerable, in the north especially. But the governor is like a father of his state. And to solve those problems, you need to use policy. Use policy. A policy can help change the story. If a parent cannot afford to put his child in school, what are you supposed to do? You use policy. The policy to empower those parents, policy of free education. Several policies can help deal with the difficulty, basic difficulty of getting your child in school. And at the cultural level, education, you can enlighten people, because culture is a strong influence. It's very strong. But it has to be dealt with. It has to be confronted, because the age we are living now is knowledge age. No state, no country can afford to allow their people to be behind, because that's regression, that's underdevelopment, and that's collapse.
Prof, let's look at teaching methods and the curriculum that is being deployed at the moment by the current administration. Do you think that the methods and the curriculum are adequate enough to prepare students for modern day challenges in society at every level? There are pupils and students who may want to get to a certain stage and then want to drop out to do other things. How much of these curriculum and the teaching methods prepares them, and even at basic level, for whatever they want to get into in the society when they live?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think as far as I'm concerned, the curriculum as it is, of course, there is no permanent, curriculum. Things are dynamic. You continue to look at the content of the curriculum, and then the changing nature of the society. If the needs are changing, definitely you need to, make some review of the curriculum to make sure that they align with the needs of society. But as far as I'm concerned today, under the current ministers of education, both Dr. Alausa and Professor Soeba, we are continuously reviewing, the curriculum, looking at the basic needs of the society. What are those things that, when you introduce, people can learn and they become economically independent at a certain stage, even if they, stop at a certain level of education. And that's why the federal government has established as training and technical colleges that, where workshops are provided. That's exactly what we are doing at the state level, trying to provide workshops, like I have earlier said, so that people can go in, learn about certain basic trades, certain skills, In fact, last week I was in Abuja, we had a meeting. The Minister, of Education, Professor Soeba, was saying that, look, we're even going to look at the number of subjects that are taught, in the JSS, junior secondary schools, and see the possibility of reducing those subjects, try to introduce time more for reading and writing and certain vocational courses, so that this student will have more time, to read and write and learn some numeracy, and also begin to learn some basic, craft work, some skills acquisition. So that at the end of the day, when a child stops even at JSS or senior secondary school, he would have something to do at home. He will be gainfully employed. But when you just come and be teaching some theoretical subjects all through, and the child does not even understand that because of the complexity of theories, he goes out not knowing anything, he is left hanging in the balance. He has not been able to learn, maybe if he is a farmer, how to go and hold his hoe and make sure that he cultivates his farm. And then at the same time, there is no proper education. So I think, honestly, the way we are, the two ministers are handling the situation, I think the curriculum, is being continuously reviewed. And we are going to have the National Council on Education. A number of reforms, are going to come in. And more practical courses, particularly technical and vocational courses, are going to be introduced just to cater for the needs, of our society, the needs, of the children. I just wanted to respond to the issue of this enrollment and retention. There are so many ways. The federal government is trying to reintroduce the feeding program. Is one thing that is really, motivating many parents to send their children, and they also return them. The state government is also going to follow suit, because, you talk about policies. There are once you bring in policies that will help the common man, those who cannot afford to send their children because of poverty, you provide uniforms, you provide teacher and learning materials, TLMs, to the student free of charge. There is, a good learning environment. The child, when he comes, he can eat. He feels very comfortable. And
so the state government is thinking of introducing
of course,
the feeding program.
Because we are just waiting for the federal government to see. They said they are going to reintroduce it. In fact, in the years back, when feeding program was in place, you find in fact, the school will be overcrowded with children, because there are so many parents who cannot feed their children, and that's, please go to school. So it's a very good policy. I am telling you this, even though it may be expensive on the part of the government, but actually it's a policy that encourages many parents to send their children to school, and the students also stay and learn because they are well fed. They say, if you can imagine, if you are hungry, what are you going to learn? You may not be able to learn anything. So
how much technology is being injected into the educational system at the moment?
Actually, there is what we call a learning passport, which the federal government has introduced, trying to digitize education, trying to make sure that all the educational institutions. This program is coming under Agile program. All the educational institutions, both primary and secondary schools, they have their EMS officers. What we do is, there's a platform which is provided. You go and take all the records, all the information about your schools, starting, let's say, from the students. You have a list of all your students, their age, the date they enter, primary school, the name of their parents, and all this, is recorded and is sent on that platform. The way, he is performing, every day, any teacher who goes to school and sign, automatically it will appear. Now, we have invited a number of foundations, a number of NGOs, and we have trained our principals, and headmasters on this. Some of them have been provided with, laptops, iPads, some with phones, and whatever data we want to take, now we want to digitize it. We want to make sure that you use this Kobo Collect. Once you go, you take the data. If you take it, you upload it. So that anywhere you are, once you go to that platform, that website of the federal government, that's what, the Minister of Education, the two ministers are trying to do to make sure that every data about all the schools in all the state, starting from the teachers, the number of teachers you have there, the subjects they teach, whether they have undergone any training or not, you record that information and you submit, you upload. Once you upload, it is there. Now, take, for example, Sokoto State. If you conduct, annual school census, you also upload the data. So if you are looking for any information...
There's a database to go to.
Yeah, the moment you just go and click Sokoto State, so you go to a local government, you click that local government, the schools will show. You go to the school. Once you go to that school, if you want information, about teachers, you go to teachers. If you want information about students, you go there. If you want information about school infrastructure, you just click school infrastructure. It will show you all the list, the number of classrooms, the school has, those that are working, those that are not working, the number of chairs and tables, the classes that have blackboards or whiteboards. So this is exactly what the two ministers are working, to make sure that we succeed. And that is exactly our focus now.
Okay.
Right now, as I'm talking to you, just last week, we invited one Bemisula Foundation, and she came to Sokoto State, and we told her this is what we are doing. We also invited another person from Lagos. He also came. And this is what we are working at. We want to digitize our education. And they're all coming to also train our teachers in this aspect. And whatever data, like I said, we have already started on the Agile program. Now, when they come, they are going to integrate whatever data they get from other schools that we have not been able to cover. Then everything will be integrated, synchronized, and come up with one, data for the whole state. So that now, at home, as a commissioner or as a governor, the moment you go to the dashboard, that very day, you will see the number of teachers that have come to school, those who have not come to school, those who are sick, if they report to the principal, you will see those who have taught, their lessons, those who have not taught. So, the number of students who have attended that day, the number that have not attended, the infrastructure, is it working? Because the principal now will be taught, and headmasters, to always, take note of whatever is going on. If a building collapses today, let them take the picture and upload it. And the cameras we have, it will, show the coordinates and the time of taking those pictures. So honestly, as far as digitization of education is concerned, we have started. Now, as I'm talking to you, if you go to the website of the federal government, Ministry of Education, if you just, click on Sokoto State, you will see our schools, annual school census.
Okay.
The data is there. So we are trying to make sure that all this information about teachers, about students, about school infrastructure, we get them, document them, and then we upload them so that anybody willing to see, the moment you go, you will see it. Yes.
So in terms of infrastructure, beyond the physical infrastructure that we see, that you have talked about, that are being provided, what else is the kind of input that you have in the various classrooms right now in terms of technology? Because this is the era of technology, and as they say, it is always good to catch them young, to bring them up to speed when they are still young and still fresh.
Yeah. Like I said, if you go to some of our secondary schools, for example, we have computer labs where we install computers and we install the learning passport. This learning passport, apart from the data that, you upload there are also, lessons, the pedagogies you are talking about, the methodologies, you just click, and just like, a YouTube, when you click, if you want, a lesson on methodology, on how to teach maybe English, math, you just click, and a teacher will just come up, and, he will tell you, okay, do this, this is how you do that, this is how you... So you just listen, just like you go to YouTube today, if you want a lesson in physics, in chemistry, and biology. Now there's something with that, and that has been, installed in such, computers, and it can work offline.
So are these computers extended to schools in rural areas? Yeah,
we are now starting, and we have selected, areas where, we feel that the students are a bit enlightened. They can easily manage them very well. But gradually, we are making a study to see how, as students and teachers managing these computers. And then we begin to go down to, to our villages and rural areas. Yeah. Because, when you start something, just like that, in a very big manner, you may face a lot of challenges.
Yeah, we start small and go big.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So, Mr. Achi, he's talked about funding and partnerships. This is one area where education benefits from such collaborations. As they say, government cannot provide everything. But how far can these partnerships, donor funding, for instance, go in helping the educational system?
Yes, first I commend Sokoto has gone digital, and they're expanding. That's good news. Now, in terms of a very important component of education is funding, of course, and beyond what the administration has made, 25% as priority budgetary allocation. Yeah, still that may not be enough. You need partnership, funding partnerships. I don't know who you're partnering with, UNICEF, there are several of them. But then the snag there is that generally on this planet now, funders are scaling down due to certain other forces coming in. The wars in the war even in Ukraine, the European funders are cutting back, focusing moving your budget to military preparation. In North America, the Trump's policies are impacting funding, U.S. aid, So, but beyond that still, offshore partnerships in terms of funding is important because without adequate funding, a lot of things that you plan may not come to. So, funding is important. So that goes to also that states must have to reach out. You also reach out creatively. Even in which other states is that even some of their diasporan diaspora, members of those states are helping, making inputs. The state have visited, they're making interventions, and it's helping. So in the case of Sokoto, I don't know what the picture of diaspora, Sokoto Boa, they should help. The mainstream, the more common funding partners we know, maybe they are scaling back, and it also affects what's happening on the ground. So Sokoto has to be creative in the way it's sourcing more funds to finance the vision of the governor in education.
All right, Prof, we're rounding off our discussion. Our time is fast spent, but just one last question. And I really want to know how you, and I mean the government now, is preserving Sokoto's cultural and religious heritage with the urgent need for modern education reforms. How are you balancing this?
Yeah, you know, like I said, what is really important is the issue of sensitizing, people, trying to make them understand the value of education, which they are beginning to see. They are beginning to see that today, in those days, some 30, 40 years back, when, a girl, for example, goes to school, she will not get a husband because everybody will think that she is corrupt. But today, you find that many people don't even like marrying people, children, a girl child who has not been to school. So the way you balance is you need to make people understand the value of education and also the kind of protection you provide within the school system to make sure that their children, are not exposed to any moral corruption by way of separating them, because that is what they want. That's why we are trying to separate males from females, and even where we have mixed, schools, we make sure that they sit, separately. Maybe if there are 5 lines or 6 lines, the 3 lines here would be girls, the other lines here, because you need to look at the sentiment of people and try to do things. And when it comes to dressing, also, we make sure that. They like to make sure that their children wear good dress, hijab, and something that, conforms with the societal norms, And that is exactly what, we are doing. We also, invite clergymen, malams, to also be talking to the people that, look, anything you see in this world, America that we are talking about, why is America the mightiest country in the world in terms of technology, in terms of economy? It's because of education. Without education, America wouldn't have been where it is today. And it's having just a population of about 315, 20 million people. China that is coming up is investing so much in education. Everybody is going out. So when you continue to, to carry people along in terms of their value system, in terms of their religion, whatever you see that, look, this is what people want, you try to do it to conform with the culture.
Okay.
I mean, then I also want to quickly respond to the issue of partnership, because honestly, I don't know, we are so lucky in Sokoto State. We are partnering with the European Union, and under European Union, they provide funding to UNICEF, to Plan International to save the school. You will be surprised. We have established 3 modern. UNICEF has established. On Plan International has established. What they call ABEP, Accelerated Basic Education Program, for out-of-school children. Because we have them, like you stated. So we try to bring them to encourage them to come back. When they come, this ABE program is consolidated within 3 years. What a child is supposed to learn within 3 years, primary 1 to 3, is consolidated into 1 year. Because most of these children are aged about 7, 10, 12, 13, so they are matured. So within a year, because of their level of maturity, they learn fast. UNICEF and Plan, UNICEF also established, 3 out-of-school children, and what we call digital village schools. There, we have computers, we have this smart board, and, there is internet. The students, these out-of-school children, apart from the normal, numeracy and literacy. They are taught. They're also taught how to operate a computer, how to, go into
so the
businesses
are working, as it were.
Honestly, they are working.
Thank you so much, Prof.
Particularly with UNICEF, is doing so much. It's helping us to identify this, to map out this out-of-school children, and is providing, a lot of support and funding. Plan
That's
International. I just want to end this by
very
telling
quickly,
you that last month,
yes,
the whole European Union ambassador to Nigeria came to Sokoto with 9 ambassadors, European ambassadors. They all came to Sokoto. We went to our IQS, Integrated Quran School System. We went to our Almajiri schools, where they are providing support to educate, our Almajiri, children. Where we have the Almajiris, and we take education to them. We talk to these malams that, look, we are not taking these children away from you. We are going to we are bringing teachers. They teach you numeracy and literacy, and then we teach them some basic crafts, some skills acquisition. So they came. We went to some villages. They were amazed. I'm telling you this.
Right. I guess that we have a lot more to talk about about this. So we'll be looking forward to having you and some of the educators on this program at some other time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, we'll be looking at the state of education in Sokoto State, and my guests have been Professor Ahmed Ladan Allah, who is the Commissioner for Basic and Secondary Education in Sokoto State. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
And, of course, Mr. Louis Achi, who is a former associate editor with This Day newspaper. Thank you so much for your time. I'm very impressed at your knowledge of the education sector in Nigeria. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
That's our program for today. Please join us again when we bring you a fresh edition of People, Politics, and Power. Bye for now.